Hello, hello, hello. Hi, I'm Vicky Webster, Soul Purpose Mentor, and I'm here with gorgeous Dr. Rebecca Williams Dinsdale, Life Joy Coach and author. And today, you're going to just know us as Becca and Jackster because this is the Becca and Jackster Christmas Cheats. Hello, hello, Becca.
My treasure, it's gorgeous to be with you.
It's always a joy. We were talking the other day, and we suddenly thought, let's just pop this into a quick video because we were sort of chatting about, even though Christmas for many of us is just wonderful and joyful, and we get to meet lots of people that we haven't seen for a while and things like that. We're also aware that for some, it's really a really sort of tricky time. There can be a lot of loneliness, and for some, it's just a matter I know of just wanting to get through the day or those 48 hours of Christmas Day and Boxing Day. So we had quite a chat about that, didn't we? And we thought, well, let's record something. So tell me what we're going to do today, Becca. What is it we're going to be talking about?
Well, Dame Jackster, and also my friends, I didn't know Jackster didn't have a C in it, so I've learned something today because I've called her Jackster with a C. She's had
Actually,
such nice manners. You've never said anything.
no, and it's purely because when I was younger, a lot of my friends used to call me Jack because I was Jacqueline Ann Knight, J-A-K. So I was known as Jack. So it's sort of no, I wasn't going to be so rude just to point out the fact the C didn't belong there.
Bless you. Well, all right then, Jacqueline Ann. So,
Yes. Oh, that's my mother.
oh, so we thought we would do 5 tips each for coping with an unconventional Christmas that would be helpful, hopeful, but also just let you know you're not on your own.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
between us, we've had some unconventional Christmases, haven't we?
We certainly have, because sometimes life just throws you curveballs, and I've had many different sort of Christmases. Some when married, some when very much not married, and some when married again, and some with children, some without children, and some with poorly parents, and some without parents. But also, I always put into the mix that I've had some wonderful Christmases too. So yeah, we were just thinking about the 5 top tips, knowing that with our lovely clients, you and I can be working with people of varying degrees of energy ability. So we've tried. Well, I think I'm right in saying we're trying to sort of come up with a few top tips that there'll be at least one, if not two, that everybody should be able to at least consider. And everyone might watch this and go through our top tips and go, actually, if those very much. It's always worth a go, and if it does help, then that's wonderful. Do you want to start with one of yours?
Oh, right, lovely. Well, I would say I have been very blessed. I had some happy childhood Christmases. I had the most magical teenage ones with lots of choir and music and church. So I've had a lot of normality. So I'm very, very fortunate. I have also had a dominance of illness that has ruined all of that normality. So I just thought I'd tell you where I've been for some Christmases. I've done 7 on a nursing home airflow bed with my mum at the end of life. That was very difficult. But it wasn't horrendous the first 3 or 4 years because there were people around. I mean, the latter ones, that was very difficult because she was, very, very about as ill as somebody can be. But the earlier ones, she could giggle, she could know what presents
Yeah.
were,
Mm.
so there were degrees of difficulty there. I have been bedbound myself. I've been too ill to open presents. I've been isolated as well, so infectious, so I couldn't be near anybody. I've had very poorly parents in a different format, often in a different room, all of us ill. I've been in several where I've had my head bitten off and it's not been pleasant. And I think, did I do all of this for this? And I've done a couple where I did elderly neighbours and I did 9 visits in one day when my energy was at its best and then I just about died on Boxing Day. So
Right.
I took Christmas dinner to my next door neighbour and she was so lovely because I can't cook at all. And she said it was the nicest dinner. And I just thought, you're such a fibber, but I love you. So that's the whole gamut. And this is the, she was gorgeous. And Kev's like, give me the dinner, I'll take it away, it's all right. It's like a sitcom. But I have also done, I've done a Christmas with a big chunk of the day on my own, which nobody ever comes out and says that, do they? But I have.
Right.
Parts of it were a bit sad, parts of it were all right, parts of it were very lonely. But I also wanted to say to people that, you know, it's over quickly sometimes. It feels like a week and a day. But also, I thought our top 10 plus some more may be useful to somebody who's thinking, I don't dare say I'm not ready for Christmas, or I haven't done Christmas dinner, or I can't eat Christmas dinner, or I've got nobody, or I try to live a good life, but I can't go. So there's a whole level of complications. And if you've had any kind of normality, you're very lucky. But you hit us with yours, Jackster, because I've gone on too long.
No, 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 no. I've been listening to you for ages. Just quickly, I sort of reflect back on mine, and I realised that, you know, I've been very lucky to have some beautiful Christmases. The most special ones would be when my grandparents would come and visit and stay. I always used to struggle with midnight mass because we'd leave the house and the turkey was. Why did we used to put the turkey in the oven like 2 days before? Surely that's just for Brussels sprouts. I don't know, but so we'd go to church already with the smell of turkey cooking and then all the incense. And my poor mother never got to see the end of a midnight mass service because I was outside feeling very sick. But putting that to one side, no, I have had some wonderful Christmas memories, and I can always remember one of my best ones was when it was age appropriate when I got the Black Beauty horse. Oh, I was in heaven. Downside to that was I thought I could sit on it. Right? Because you know you get anyway. So I've had some really good memories, but I've also had ones where um you know, especially after mum had passed, first Christmas was incredibly difficult for me. Um, my father, I always joke about my father, and I know he won't mind me saying this when he listens in from above, is that my father died on Christmas Day about 5 years ago. The way I joke about it is the fact that, you know, he wouldn't even let baby Jesus celebrate his birthday properly. Dad had to get the spotlight. That would be my dad. That would be my dad. So I think for me, where I've had the more difficult ones, it has been more to do with loss. Um, so anyway, on the whole, I am very, very blessed with the Christmases I've had. Looking at my little list here, the first one is for me, obviously, go to church. If you can, go to church. Even if you don't usually go to church, you don't even have to have, you know, any strong faith. I'm going to say it's the one place that's open on Christmas Day. You know, it doesn't shut. And they might not put on, you know, huge, hello, Christine, can hear you. It might not put on huge sort of teas and coffees and a buffet afterwards. It's the opportunity to get out of the house, to go hopefully to a fairly warmish place, but do wrap up, to be around other people, and hopefully to just absorb some of that uplifting energy that will be there as you enter the doors. So for me, the church is sort of the number one, because not so much what it stands for, even though that is beautiful and wonderful for many, but it's the fact it just puts you into a place with connection, and it passes an hour or so of the day, and it gives you you know, you can look in your mental diary and go, well, my day is not empty because at 10 o'clock I'm going to go to the local church. So that's my top tip.
My
So
top
my
tip is
first
don't let your dog bark in the Zoom. I'll go and get her. 2 seconds. Do your second tip, Jack.
one. My second tip, ladies and gentlemen, just a fairly simple one is, have you got in the back of your cupboard, have you got that jigsaw that you've always been planning to do? There she is. Or is it a jigsaw that you were hoping to just go and take to the local charity shop and you just haven't bothered yet? Because there's something very absorbing and meditative and mindful and time consuming about a jigsaw. And if you feel you can have the radio on, I mean, I would always say have the radio on during the day anyway. If you're not a television person, lovely to have the radio on in the background because, you know, again, it's just a sense of connection. And so I'd say jigsaw, mince pie, radio, and if you're allowed a mince pie, if you can tolerate the mince pie, then have one. Personally, I don't. It's just, it can just while away an hour or so. And I would say also, if anyone does watch this and think, I will get out and dust down that jigsaw, we would love to see the finished article. Photos, please. So those are my first top two. Top two. Now that Queen Christie is now in her rightful place on the throne with Mummy, what are your top two?
Don't get a dog for Christmas.
Did somebody not say that to you once? I do believe
They did. Now I'm waiting for you to send me a message saying, Becca, don't worry, a puppy will calm down after a year. Then you send me a message the next Christmas that says 3.5. And then last Christmas, 9.5. Just get to 9 years, Beck, she'll be fine.
you'll be fine. Yeah, just
yeah. So she likes to be in on the action. Sorry, people. So my first point was, as much as you can, plan it. So the business of what can you manage with what you've got? And sometimes I think we become a bit lost and drowned without a plan. So I've often got a backup plan about what I can do if certain situations happen. Oh, I frightened the dog. So I've written my plan here on a post-it. Now, God willing, let's hope it can come to pass. But I've put the three of us in one piece, not hospital, no emergency GPs, no infections, no bother. That was my first bit, basic. Second one is I want to voice message people. And then if somehow I would like to try church, but that's a little bit trickier, but I'm working on that. My background position is stroll, fresh air, bit of telly, bit of sensible food, because I have to be careful about what goes into me. But then I've written here, plan the telly, and then I've put do something creative. So if there's a chunk of the time when I am on my own, I'm going to just do something where I'll, like the jigsaw, be completely absorbed. And I mean, I'm doing advent calendars at the moment for next year because I like sewing. So, you know, save me from another advent calendar, but I might crack on an advent calendar on Christmas Day. So, and I've had Christmas days where I've done ironing and I've done jobs that I wouldn't normally get done because Kev was at work or Dad was too poorly for visitors or whatever the things. So, you know, I remember somebody said to me, what did you do? And I thought, well, am I allowed to say I did housework? Because it's so countercultural, you know.
yes,
so
absolutely.
I won't do a plan. And then I've put TV, so in brackets, clean, walk, stroll, TV, eat wisely and normally, don't be seduced by bad stuff.
Perfect. The last thing we want is, I mean, it's so tempting. I'm absolutely very impressed. I won't go and get it. There's an opened tub of Rosie's chocolate that I won at the Christmas raffle on Sunday. I haven't touched them and I won't. I can't sugar. And there's no point because the payback is just not worth it. It's not worth it. The blood sugar spikes are followed by the absolute slump. So what I would actually add though is if there is the Christmas pudding or the Christmas cake and you want to have some, make sure you've had the protein first. Okay, so that the sugar has something to sit on rather than sort of hit you straight away. So I suppose that's why we have pudding after our main meal. So yes, wonderful. I also put, one of the other things I put was if you're in that lovely position where you know there is somebody else who is on their own, schedule a call.
Yes, you do something about looking after somebody else. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, because there's a lot of things that you might be doing for the other person, but actually it's doing you so much good too. So if you know you can say to yourself, oh, I'm going to ring Betty because I know she's on her own and she must be, very, very lonely. And actually, Betty might be fine on her own, but you would do with having somebody to chat to. So if there is somebody that that maybe I haven't chatted to for a while, if you know they're on their own, then maybe having a call would be helpful too. It's just another form of sort of company, really, isn't it? So I was thinking of that. And the other thing is, for those that are physically able to, is there are so many sort of homeless centres out there that need volunteers. So if you are someone who's got sort of good enough energy, you're okay with that, then volunteering there, again, you're going to help because they need people to sort of help, clear the tables, make the tables, hand out the food, talk to people. But actually, what it does for you also is, again, it's connection, community, friendship. It's, I don't really want to say it passes the time. I don't want to belittle it, but it does, and I still plan to do that 1 year. So far, my children haven't let me because they keep trying to visit. Uh, it's something that I think there's a lot of centres out there that would really appreciate it. And it used to be quite a sort of strange thing to do, but quite a lot of people do it now. Unfortunately, and quite sadly, it's needed. It's very much needed. So yes, volunteer at a homeless centre. What else? Have you got anything else, Bex?
I've put here, grit your teeth and find some tiny treasure in it, so that if it isn't comfortable, pretend a bit, get through the 2 hours with uncle who's been a nuisance, or somebody's having a twist or whatever. Find a quiet corner. If you're in a gathering that's not as comfortable as you need it, find a treasure, find a quiet corner. I've written here, manage your time and energy as much as you need to and can. And then I've written, remember, if it's difficult, it might be better next year. And here's the question, what can you do to make it better? Just a bit.
Yes.
And
yes.
And if you're not well enough to do a big physical give, spiritual give, mental give, and also make my great, apart from you, Denise Robertson was one of my great mentors. And I used to record her on the telly to see what she'd said, because she was from Sunderland. And I remember she said on Christmas Day that she'd sat and she'd lost her husband and she had a little son. And she said how much she dreaded it, but that she'd said, I made a list of 10 things to make our life better next year. And she said, I only did 2. But on that day, I went to the sea at Seaham, looked at the sea and thought, what can I do? And that stayed with me so much. What can I do to make it less bad? What can I do to make it better? And there's really wonderful power in daydreaming and hoping. So that would be mine.
Creativity, you're just opening up all sorts of possibilities. And I think that if that's something that does appeal to people, it's like, before Christmas, make sure you've got a lovely notepad and pen, especially for that, dedicated to, a lot of us like a bit of stationery. So, have that there ready to scribble down your thoughts. The last one that I had was that even though things do quieten down on Christmas Day, on Boxing Day, if you're still sort of again in the same situation, that you live in an area which has either got a bandstand or so, if they've got a concert on, is wrap yourself up and go down to the sort of local event where there's some singing and, if they're sort of handing out mulled wine. Not all of us can drink that sort of thing. I know you've had your first experience with mulled wine, Dr. Bex.
I learned about it. I didn't have it. Oh yeah, no, I'm not there.
Never. Okay, well, I thought she's been a bit risky, isn't she? Become a bit loose with all the.
No.
No, it smells gorgeous. It does, and it tastes quite nice. But again, it's sort of, is it worth the reaction from your body? If your adrenals are a bit stressed, something like that is a wee bit too much. Yes, get yourself out to a local event if you can. It's just what we're trying to do here is to get you through those 2 days, because that's all it is really. And then everything starts to
calm down,
and then you're done.
And people get, there's also, maybe don't scroll too much and look at what everybody else is doing that looks perfect that you're missing out on. There has to be a kind of policy in place to protect yourself if you're going to be sad. And especially in some ways, if you don't have any children and you want them, there are ways around that too, that you look after other people's, you donate to other people's, you try where you can, to just try and do something. And also it might be better than you think. There's another thing to remember.
Absolutely. And the one thing I always remind people is that if you do scroll through Facebook, I had one person say to me, but if there's something there that upsets me, or I just swipe it on. I said, yeah, but you to delete it, you've got to have seen it. It will have still registered. So maybe just have a little bit of a break from that kind of thing. And also with the mindset, if it's possible, is rather than focus, I know it's easier said than done sometimes, rather than focus on the things that you're not able to do, that are not happening, just focus on the little things that you can do.
Can do.
You
Yes.
put your focus onto that, because where the attention goes, the energy
Energy
flows.
flows. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think maybe my only other thing to add was, even if you think it's bad, 1,000 people would swap with you.
Absolutely.
And that takes some nerve to believe, because when I was in here on my own, I thought, well, at least I've got the heat on, I've got the dog, Kev will come home eventually, you know.
Yes.
So, and I thought, well, there'll be people who are cold, you know, and I have enough. So I think there's ways of trying to look at things, and that doesn't mean it's easy, but also it's nearly done now. We've done well to get to this point.
Well, absolutely, because we're Wednesday, so this time next week, sorry folks, it's done. For me, the tree's down, everything's packed away.
Yes.
I'm looking at my diary, thinking, when am I going back to work? You know, it's that.
Oh God, send us back to work. Give me
It's sort of, hopefully, you know, everyone will get through okay. I think it's also important, you know, if there's someone who you feel, and I know I've mentioned this before, do have the Samaritan's phone number on sort of, not speed dial, but written down somewhere, if you feel either you or someone you know would be in need of them, because I think that's sort of important. And the only other thing I would say really is, if you are on your own and you're going to be eating on your own as well, still make something special, even if it's make the tray with your nice plate and your nice, you know, knife and fork. And if you want to make yourself a paper hat, then do that. Just invest yourself a wee bit in it, and enjoy what you can in the simple pleasures, because life is all supposed to be about humility and simplicity. And therefore, if you're sitting there having a very simple day, in some ways, you know, you're doing okay compared to the others that are sitting there with their gifts that are worth £1,000 and completely forgotten what the point of Christmas is. So, you know, it's important, if anyone does struggle, that they reach out. So, you know what, Beck, I hope one or two of the things we've said have been helpful. I really do. And I always love it when you and I have a chat, because we just spark off one another. The things we talk about, is quite ridiculous sometimes. I think both of us really, and you might want to sort of add something yourself here, would just, whatever happens, that we do wish everybody the merriest Christmas, the happiest and healthiest Christmas they can have. And we look forward to the new year, because there's just something, the 1st of January, that just is tell us.
Yes. Yeah. And
2024.
Exactly. I hope it's your best year yet, my friends. I hope we remember that Christ is for life, not just for Christmas, and Jesus is the reason for the season. I saved that.
Well done. Yes, absolutely. And I know that I'm actually blessed that this year is going to be quite busy. I've got a busy week with all 3 children arriving at some point, but certainly on Christmas Day, there's that point where I take myself off for 5 minutes and I just sit with him and say thank you. So
thank you for being my friend.
God bless us. Oh, thank you for being my friend too, and to everybody out there for all their support and love and friendship and kindness and all the comments and everything. So we wish you well, happy Christmas, and we will do this again sometime.
Gorgeous. Thank you, my friend.
And you.
Jacqueline Ann without a C.
And Lenny.
God bless.
God bless.